a little blue ball of super energy in an extremely handsome package. Supersonic. And in order to save my planet, I had to come to yours. Supersonic. Where am I? What year is it? Is the Rock president?
"20 minutes ago, an energy surge knocked out power across the entire Pacific Northwest."
Who's there?
Why are you hiding out in my garage?
The entire military is after me.
Good morning, my rural chum. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to tell me where it is.
Wait, don't hurt him. Awesome. Road trip?
This can't be happening to me.
We can lay low here for a while.
So what are we gonna do now? Whoa! Let me show you how it's done. So should we get out of here?
Yeah, time to go. You think you can get away from me?
Aw, this one is cute. You've got car insurance, right?
You're about to die.
Is that all you got?
No, but thank you for asking.
Here comes the boom.
How are you not dead?
I have no idea. Let's go.
Why would you throw your life away for this silly little alien? He's my friend.
Good times. This is my power.
That was an illegal left, by the way.
And I'm using it to protect my friends. Blah, 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 blah. Let me know if you want to go round 2 with the blue.
Hey there, guys. I'm Eric Goldman, managing editor at Fandom, and I want to welcome you to the first installment of Hey Fandom. This is our new interview series where we're bringing fans and creators together. Hey Fandom gives you the chance to ask actors, writers, directors, producers questions about the shows, movies, and games that you love. Now, I'm really excited to talk to our guests today, and I've got plenty of questions for them, but we want to hear yours as well. So if you want to join us and ask a question live on video, you can hit that raise hand icon at the bottom of the screen, or if you have a text question you'd like to send, you can hit that question mark icon at the bottom of the screen. So I also want to mention our charity partner. We have a really great partner for this, Direct Relief. Direct Relief is coordinating with public health authorities, nonprofit organizations, and businesses in the US, China, and globally to provide personal protective equipment and essential medical items to health workers responding to COVID-19. It's a really wonderful cause. And if you'd like to donate, you can please go to fandom.link/donate. And I also want to add, if you're able to donate during this live show, we'll give you a shout out on an upcoming episode of Fandom Entertainment's SJU. If you can donate, we'd really appreciate it. All right, without further ado, let's get to our guest. Screenwriter Pat Casey's previous credits include the animated series Goldman the Insatiable, where he worked with a frequent collaborator, Josh Miller, and in fact, Pat and Josh would team up again to write 2020's hit movie Sonic the Hedgehog, which is now out on digital, and will be out on May 19th on 4K Blu-ray and DVD. So that's it. Let's bring on Pat to talk all things Sonic, Hedgehogs, and Sonic the Hedgehog. Pat, how are you doing? And welcome. He's connecting. That's how he's doing. This is hey. There you go. Hey, Pat.
I'm doing great. Great to be here, Eric.
Thank you so much, Pat. And I have a construction happening right next door. So if you're an occasional jackhammer, no worries.
All right.
Well, thanks again for being here. Sonic obviously was a big hit earlier this year, now out on digital, as I mentioned. But I want to do a little bit, before we get to my questions and to those fan questions, I wanted to ask a little bit about your origin story, just because making it as a writer in Hollywood, not an easy thing to do. So how'd you go from aspiring screenwriter to actually having something produced of your work?
That's funny. Josh Miller, my partner, we moved out here from Minnesota together after we both graduated from college, and we actually made our first sale. When we first moved out here, I was working at a video store and he was working at a sandwich shop. So we had all the, necessities we needed to survive, just sandwiches and videos. Well, we worked on screenplays while we weren't at work. And then, I basically made our first screenplay sale over the counter at the video store to a customer.
Nice.
Who I I perceived that they were making movies, and was like, hey, we've got scripts, and we sold that script, and that became the movie National Lampoon's Dorm Days, which is not exactly a classic, but it got our foot in the door, and it took some years after that before we really broke into the like real legitimate part of the business and got agents and had meetings with studios and networks and managed to do stuff like Goldman the Insatiable and eventually Sonic the Hedgehog, which is kind of what we wanted to do the whole time, was like really get into, the kind of big blockbuster movies that were the things that we loved the most.
I just have to mention that there was a Dorm Days poster in the front door of the liquor store that I'd go to next to Zanku Chicken here in the Valley for years. So
no
Dorm
kidding.
Days is being well represented.
That's amazing. Where was that liquor store?
Right at Burbank and Sepulveda. So there you go.
No kidding. I had no idea.
Now, let me ask, Sonic had been sort of one of those tough nuts to crack for Hollywood. There had been a lot of attempts through the years to make a movie. So what was sort of the eureka moment for you guys when you were sort of sitting down to say, okay, what do we do with a Sonic movie?
It's funny, like it never seemed that impossible to us. Like when the idea was brought up of a Sonic movie, we were like, of course. It's a superhero movie. He's a guy with powers, and we just find a way. The real thing to figure out ultimately was like how to make him relatable and emotional and make it so that the people in the audience could feel for this furry blue hedgehog and not just make him some annoying Woody Woodpecker character, that we wanted to keep that wisecracking nature. And somehow Josh and I and Jeff Fowler, the director, we were talking about Superman and the Little Mermaid, and sort of came up with this whole conceit of him being on Earth by himself, rather than just like him coming to Earth and having an adventure immediately, but having this kind of lengthy, lonely period, which would lend to the whole thing some heart beyond just seeing him smash robots.
That's fun as well, though. And I love
you have to have him smashing robots. That has to be part of it. That just can't be the whole thing, or else it'll get a little.
I love the Superman meets the Little Mermaid, by the way. The Superman and the Little Mermaid don't get brought together enough, so kudos on that. We're going to get to fan questions in a moment, so just a reminder, if you want to hit that raise hand icon at the bottom, you can ask a question on video, or you can hit the question mark for a text question. But I wanted to mention, there's been other adaptations of Sonic through the years. There's been some animated series. There's a comic book, and I know on the Fandom Sonic wiki that we have every month when that comes out, there's like kind of a big spike in conversation around that. So when it came down to you guys figuring out what to do with Sonic and all the different sort of mythology that there was at this point, did you look at those animated series, at those comics? Did you kind of mostly focus on the video games, or was it a mixture of it all?
We mostly focused on the games, and especially just the first few games, which were the ones that like we grew up playing. We took a look at some of the comics and the cartoons and stuff, but there's so many, and they were contradicting each other, and were so complicated that like to adapt one would be to ignore the others, in a way that we kind of thought the best way to do it was to just keep it very simple, just Sonic, Robotnik. There was a version where Tails was in the whole movie at one point, but then that kind of fell by the wayside. But we wanted to just keep it simple, so that in a way, like this could be a prequel to any one of those other, whichever cartoon or comic book you like the best. This was a prequel to that one in particular,
There you go. There's many timelines. It always.
Yeah.
We're going to go to our first question here. We've got a text question from Ashley. So if we can throw up to our intrepid producer, Billy, we're going to throw up this text question from Ashley. Oh, there we go. How much of Sonic's character was influenced by Ben Schwartz? And I guess that ties into sort of, when did you know that Ben was going to be voicing the character, and was there sort of rewrites involving that?
Ben got on board very early, actually. Before we did the movie, we made a little short, which I wish was on the DVD, but it's not. I'm not sure what the issue was that they couldn't include it, but that we shot using like leftover budget from Tim Miller's show that he had on Netflix. Oh shoot, now I'm forgetting what it's. Oh, Love, Death, and Robots.
Right.
Basically, he had like the equipment for an extra day. So Jeff and Tim went out into the desert and shot this, just a little scene of Sonic and Tom that then we used to show to the studios to try and sell it to a studio, and then Paramount bought it. But Ben was the voice in that. So like that was before the script was even done, that we were like halfway through writing the script really. But having Ben come in and do the voice, like we heard it and saw how it worked. And so it did kind of influence the whole thing from that point. I mean, and when Ben first came up to do the voice of like, how about Ben Schwartz? And we were like, yeah, that's perfect. Like, because
Right.
he is similar. Like what he's doing is similar to how we were already thinking of it. It like really just came together and was sort of a perfect fit.
Mm-hmm. I think many fans would agree with that. So we do have that now question from Jonathan on video. So he's going to be popping up here in a second. Jonathan, thanks so much for joining us. And what is your question for Pat? Oh, wait, he's connecting. There he is. Hey, Jonathan.
Hey.
Hey there, Jonathan.
Listen, a little bit about a few minutes ago, I asked a question to Pat Casey. He was supposed to.
He's still loading in slow for me, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Not just me. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
There
you.
you are,
We
yeah.
can hear you, Jonathan. You can shoot your question.
Why did Tails appear at the very end when he should have been in with Sonic at the very beginning?
Thank you so much for your question, Jonathan. Yeah, so you mentioned you did play with it. So was there actual versions written with Tails and the whole thing, or was it just sort of an idea you were talking about?
Not a whole draft of the script. Earlier versions of the story, it took us a while to kind of come up with what the ultimate story was. There were earlier versions where we spent a little more time back on Sonic's world, and Tails was already Sonic's best friend there before Sonic comes to Earth. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, it just wasn't quite working. So we started over with this whole new idea of Sonic being stuck on Earth by himself. And if he had Tails with him, he wouldn't be by himself, and that kind of character story wouldn't really work. But we love Tails and we wanted him in there. So we always planned, once we realized he wasn't going to be in the body of the movie, we were like, well, Tails will show up at the end. He'll be our Nick Fury, and that'll get everyone stoked for a part 2, hopefully, where we get to do the whole thing and really give Tails some exciting stuff to do, which I'm really looking forward to, hopefully.
I like the idea of Sonic, though, having these sort of monologues about he's by himself, and then we pan over and see Tails being like, hey.
Exactly. It would undermine the forever alone feeling a little bit if he had just a best friend following him constantly.
Exactly. we got Tails. Well, Tails is coming. Well, we saw Tails. So let's go to our next text question. We got a text question here from Langley. If we can pop that up on screen for you. Any thoughts on creating a Sega/Nintendo cinematic universe over at Paramount? I thought about this because that opening Sega sort of graphic that the movie begins with, there's a lot of games you're seeing there, and you go, what might happen?
Yeah, I mean, a combined universe, it would be so great if we could have Mario show up in the end credits of one of these. And, I saw a lot of people making that joke about like the Smash Brothers initiative. I mean, that would be amazing, but I think legally speaking, it's going to be tough to do. Nintendo's very difficult to get to do their adaptations of their stuff. They're very protective of their characters. I mean, so is Sega. That's the thing. They're two different companies. Yeah. Maybe someday, probably not anytime soon, though,
Right.
I guess that'll be my answer.
We'll build some stuff out first. And we're going to have another video question in a second. Just want to remind everyone, if you have a question, you want to ask it, you can hit the raise hand icon on the bottom for video. And if you have a text question, hit the question mark. But Nicholas, let's bring up Nicholas, who's got a question for you, Pat. Nicholas, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. My question is the Echidna tribe that attacks Longclaw in the beginning of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, is that tribe, is there any relationship
Still working
to
out the
Knuckles?
kinks a little bit on the technology, huh? This is the first one of these you've done?
Yes. Did you hear that question,
honored.
Pat? Did you hear that question,
no, I didn't.
Pat? Oh, sorry, Nicholas. Can you ask that one more time?
My question is the Echidna tribe that attacks Longclaw in the beginning, does that tribe have any relationship to Knuckles the Echidna?
Well, I mean, I can't reveal too much, but they are echidnas, and Knuckles is an echidna. So, I mean, I would guess they're related in some way, but what exactly that relationship is, we'll have to see how things develop.
Thank you so much, Nicholas.
But the Echidna tribe was certainly not chosen at random.
Sure. I am curious. I'm curious. How much did you kind of play with how long you would see Sonic on his planet versus when he would go to Earth? Did that go back and forth a bit?
Yeah, I mean, in earlier versions, we had like a lot of stuff, and like that was kind of a thing where the producers would be like, guys, this is going to be crazy expensive, like having too many different animated characters because it costs a lot to build each one.
Yeah,
that was part of it. And this movie, like, it's a big budget movie, but it's not that big budget. Like, we had only a little more than half of the budget of like Detective Pikachu,
right.
And they had so many creatures, but there's a reason we had less creatures. It's because we also had less money. But then also, like, we knew the bulk of the story was going to happen on Earth. So it's like, however much time we spent on a different world before we came to Earth, it's all just prologue, and like not much of that can carry through the rest of the movie. Especially, I mean, you could do it if there was like, if the main villain was on that world, so that story could carry through to the rest of the movie. But we also knew we wanted the main villain to be Dr. Robotnik, who is a human being and played by Jim Carrey and was going to be on Earth. So we just wanted to get to Earth and get to the main story as quickly as possible, since it's just a movie. If it was a series, maybe things would be different and we had more time to play with.
Right.
But like, movies really are just very short. Like, you got to be really careful with what you put in there, because everything you add, you got to take something else away.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned that you had half the budget of Detective Pikachu. No disrespect to that film, but you ended up beating them domestically, the biggest video game movie ever. So
that's true. We just barely passed them before all the theaters closed for the quarantine. Right. We were happy to hit that number. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. Good. No, kudos on that. We've got another text question here from Alejandro. Bring up Alejandro's question here for you. Alejandro asks, I love the movie. As a screenwriter, I was wondering how much you looked from the video game's creator's interpretation of Sonic, and how much of the character did you create? So that's, I guess that's the mixture we're talking about. Ben is in the mix as well. So how much do you look at what the source material gives you, and then of course having to build it out for this film?
I mean, yeah, it's like really a lot of it was just sort of like looking at his animation and just the way that he behaves even before he ever started talking in the games, and just kind of like, what feeling did that give us about what this guy is like? He's got that smirk. He looks right in the camera. If you leave your controller alone too long and starts looking at his watch, and just all his gestures like implied a lot of personality to us, sort of a Bugs Bunny-esque character. What we feel like we added really in our discussions with Jeff and with Ben is that sort of like that heartfeltness and his longing for friendship, but also, I mean, other, like saving the turtle at the beginning and kind of like looking out for the little guy. Like that was always sort of baked into the character too, because right from the beginning, he was always rescuing small animals from the badniks. Yeah. So it's sort of like a lot of the character that was implied, but we didn't really dig too deep into like the subsequent comics and stuff, because I feel like a lot of those also are an older, more jaded Sonic, and this is like Sonic right when he's getting going. Right. So we didn't want to get too deep into other people's interpretations of what he would later become. If that makes sense.
No, it does. I mean, this is a Sonic who's not new to the world, but he's still starting out. Yeah.
He's a rookie Sonic. He's figuring it out.
Exactly. We're going to have another video question now from Isaac. Isaac, we can bring you up. Thank you so much for joining us, Isaac. How's it going for you today? Hey, young man.
Good, but my dad is Isaac, but I have so many questions.
Oh, wow.
One little thing. Okay.
These guys are popping in later for me than for you. I still haven't, it still says he's connecting for me.
Oh, okay.
Oh, now I can see you. You want to go ahead and ask a question?
Son of Isaac. Yeah, what's your question?
Since Eggman is like fat in the like cartoon, why does Eggman get fat in the mushroom world?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I think that would be funny. Jim Carrey
gorging
has
on
commented on that. Like Jim said, like for the second one, I should have a giant fat suit, and so he wants to do it. But I think the producers are nervous about how long it would take to get him in and out of the fat suit every day. So we'll see.
Yeah. He doesn't have a lot to do.
Yeah, suggested that maybe he has an allergic reaction to the mushrooms, and we like see him just like swelling up. We'll see. Maybe we'll do it.
Well, thank you. I wanted to say thanks to Isaac, but he said it was Isaac's son. So thank you, son of
Oh.
Isaac. We didn't catch his name. We want to dig a little bit in with you, Pat, on a specific scene in the film. So we're going to do that in a second. But first, I wanted to remind folks that our great charity partner for Hey Fandom is Direct Relief, and you can donate to them at fandom.link/donate. And that if you donate during this live show, you'll be given a shout out on an upcoming episode of SJU. So yeah, if you can go there, fandom.link/donate. That's a really great cause. So now let us talk a little bit about a scene from the film, Pat. We're going to watch a clip, and then we're going to dig into it a little bit. So Billy, if we could play that clip from Sonic the Hedgehog. I believe I know.
I get you.
Get back in the truck.
You go. I'll catch up. Step one.
My turn.
Aw, this one is cute. Let's keep him. You got car insurance, right?
So we edited that a little bit because we wanted to show more of the sequence, not just the scene. So you might have noticed a little bit of editing there, but we wanted to show how that came about because this is a really fun sequence. Usually the bad guy sends, if one thing doesn't work, he says send the bigger one and then the bigger one. You guys went the opposite route. So how did that come together? The idea of the ever increasingly small drones.
I don't quite remember other than, when we started out, oops, I'm sorry, I bumped my table. We kind of were just like brainstorming different kinds of set pieces we could do that could feature Sonic's speed in different ways. And we really liked the idea also of just like thinking of, creative takes on the badniks, which were never going to quite be as so cartoony as like they are in the games, to make them like more of a real, real military drone kind of feel, but still with a little bit of a whimsical feel. And the exact inspiration, but once we had the idea of like Sonic destroying a big one and a smaller one coming out, it just seemed natural to just like keep it going, like one inside of another. We always called them the babushka drones, like the old Russian nesting dolls.
Yeah, that's what I had in my notes. The Russian nesting doll drones. Yes.
Yeah, and like really, it was just the idea of the final one that being the deadliest, like a teeny tiny insect drone, really made everyone laugh, and so it went right in the movie, and then never really went away. That was one of the first sequences we wrote, and it stayed mostly the same, although I think there used to be 5 drones instead of 4. We cut it down by 1.
Right. I still think it's a good amount. It's a good amount of drones still.
Yeah, you get the joke, and I loved the line too. It's like, I think that robot just had a baby, or whatever it is. That tank just had a baby.
Yes. A sequence like this, it's like there's of course a lot of variables because you guys write it. Then they shoot it on set, but then they have to animate Sonic, animate some of the drones. So it's interesting for you to see the final product and see like, exactly how it all comes together, given where you guys begin on this, just writing it out.
Yeah, it's very exciting to be able to like make a car chase happen as a writer. Like, and they go out there and, close down this whole stretch of highway on Vancouver Island, I think is where they did that. And it was like raining while they shot it, or like raining off and on. So it was kind of a difficult shoot. I know that part of the thing, driving these trucks and camera trucks up and down that freeway repeatedly, getting all the stuff they needed. At one point, I know Jeff wanted to really build that tank. and really have someone out there driving it. But I think ultimately it became only animated. Like it wasn't really out there at all. It's just an imaginary tank.
It all comes together on screen. We're going to go to another text question here. We've got a text question from Robert, who asks, Sonic has been a big influence on my creative work. So what sources did you draw from the script? So, I mean, we talked about Sonic-specific sources, but there were other things you kind of had in mind, touchstones as you were doing this? You mentioned Little Mermaid and Superman.
Yeah, Little Mermaid, Superman. We thought about Hellboy, too, actually, which is like a little what Sonic's like. You know, Hellboy, like, can't go out. Yeah. Like, Superman is an alien here, but it's like he looks like a normal person, but Sonic's more like Hellboy, where it's like Hellboy can't ever leave the base, so he's just stuck, you know, playing with his pet cats and eating ice cream and stuff, and just kind of thinking about that solitary existence. But we also talked about a lot of other just sort of heroic type stories, you know, Star Wars and the Marvel movies. We wanted, I mean, the Marvel movies have done it so well, and people love them so much. It's like they were kind of a model of how to do these kind of fun big movies for everyone to enjoy with like a lot of comedy in it. I mean, we didn't want to do exactly what they were doing, which we didn't, but it was like we did discuss them and how they're structured and all that stuff too. But you know, Luke Skywalker and just the hero's journey, all of that stuff, like we weren't doing it by rote, but we thought about it and talked about it at times in terms of like what Sonic's going through and how he goes from just this fast kid to realizing that he's tough too, and, you know, going from running away to standing up for himself and kind of becoming the hero that we all think of when we think of Sonic the Hedgehog.
We have another text question here from Will. I'll bring that up on screen for you. Will asks, how did you feel about the original creative direction for Sonic? Were you aware of how he would look? And what did you personally think about the design? I'm shocked someone is asking a question about the design. Obviously, this became a little bit of a thing with the movie. Some changes made along the way. But, you know, of course, you're not in the effects room, so I am curious, what were your conversations like about that?
I mean, when we were writing the script, like, he didn't have a look at all. And then there was that original short that they made while we were still writing it, where he didn't really look like either of the either the design everyone hated or the final one, but it was like he was cute and cuddly, and that was kind of, you know, when we would talk to Jeff about it, we were just like, it's just, you know, people want to have to pick him up and hug him. That was like the kind of that was our input on it. But it's like, I'm not a designer, so I couldn't say like we need to make his leg longer or his, you know, whatever. Specifics is not my thing. And I did see the original design before that trailer came out, and, you know, I didn't love it. I was like, I feel like this isn't quite right, but I didn't know exactly what to say or how to say it. But I wasn't expecting like the huge reaction that it got, where it was like they were making fun of us on every single TV show. Like that week, I watched The Daily Show and Saturday Night Live and everything. I couldn't escape it. I was like, this is so weird. But and then ultimately, like, our final design is so good. It's clearly an improvement. Although I think the old design, honestly, there wasn't much more animation than was in the trailer, but there was like a little bit. And like when I saw those parts, like there was like most of the baseball scene with the old Sonic, and like seeing him moving and doing all the stuff and being his charming self, actually, like in the context of the movie, people would have gotten on board with him, I think, if they weren't too scared to come see it by the trailer. Right. Because the animation is all the same animators. The animation was always going to be great. And he's just a well animated character with this charming performance. I think he ultimately would have charmed people, but it's like that first impression definitely was very off-putting for a lot of people. So I'm glad that we were able to make a course correction, and Tyson Hess came on board, and he was great. And I think everything worked out for the best ultimately. And luckily we were still able to come out before the pandemic hit. Yeah. And I mean, it's funny, people say you never get a second chance to make a first impression, but I feel like when that second trailer came out, you saw, people were very, very on board. So I wasn't sure how people were going to react. I half expected everyone to just make fun of us again. So I was very pleased that the general audience gave us a second chance, and reassessed it. And this whole thing, I guess, was kind of a test of the theory that there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Sure.
Like it worked out for us. Didn't work out that great for cats, but
yeah. Okay, so I'm going to bring on another video question. Since there's been a lag for you, Pat, I'll just repeat their question if you say you didn't hear it.
Okay.
So let's bring on Malcolm on video. Hey there, Malcolm. How's it going for you?
Good.
Oh, hello, young Malcolm. How's it going?
Good.
What's your question for Pat, Malcolm?
Is there going to be another Sonic movie?
So he's just getting straight to it, Pat, and is asking, will there be another Sonic movie?
Well, I think we all hope there will be. Everybody, hi Malcolm. Now you're up for me. Everybody really wants to do another one. We want to do another one. Jeff, the whole cast. But there's nothing official yet. But I mean, we've been talking about it. So hopefully there will be a second one before too long. And I think.
And another thing, you have your time to think about the movie to get all of it done before we get 9 lockdown.
Didn't quite catch that. Oh, the lockdown. I think he's saying he's also happy he got to see the movie before the lockdown. Pat. Malcolm, thank you so much. I think Malcolm, you have a good chance, is what Pat's saying. There's a fairly good chance. So I wanted to ask a little bit. We've talked about him in passing, but I just wanted to ask about Jim Carrey a little bit. Because you've got Dr. Robotnik, who's like this big villain, and iconic villain, and then you cast Jim Carrey in the role. So what was that like? When did he come on board? Did you do some rewrites after that, kind of because of his voice?
Yeah, he came on. I think we already had Ben, and we already had James Marsden basically lined up at least. And I was very excited when Jim came on board because I'm a huge fan. I was like, I was a teenager during his glory years, and I went and saw every movie. Of course, I was so excited to meet him and work with him. And there were some rewrites. I mean, he had some ideas. He continued to have ideas, like even while we were shooting. Like Josh and I were on set some of the time, but not all the time. But sometimes we'd, get an emergency phone call of just like, Jim has some ideas for the scene we're doing later today. He needs some lines like this and like that. And we'd be like, oh, okay. And, come up with some stuff to give him some options, basically like roll out a box of toys for him to play with when he got out in front of the camera. So he was ad-libbing, but with some prepared stuff to help him ad-lib to be the best he could be. And he's really a nice guy. I've gotten to know him a little bit more too after the movie came out, doing events and stuff. And he's like really great. And he's excited that kids and everybody connected with the movie so strongly too. Like he's thrilled. And it's funny when he first came on board too, because it's been a while since he did a big movie. I was a little bit nervous. I was like, oh, he's such a giant star. Is he going to really care about this? Or is he just going to, do like Marlon Brando where he shows up and like reads his lines for the first time off of his hand? No, he was 100% locked in, and like he put forth such an insane amount of effort, just like seeing him get pumped up before doing a scene, it's like he would really get himself into character. That's a hardworking guy right there, Jim Carrey. Yeah.
My friend Sam was a big fan of Robotnik's line, "They don't need time off to get drunk and put the boat in the water." That whole sort of run about why he loves machines. Was that Jim? Was that you guys? A combination of both?
Like we had a whole thing about how he prefers machines to humans, but getting drunk and putting the boat in the water, that wasn't me. I think that was Jim or someone else. But I can't take credit for that little bit. And how he says it was so funny.
Yeah. Classic Carrey delivery there. Got another text question from Samuel. So Samuel, let's bring up your question. As a screenwriter, does it annoy you? This is funny when an actor improvs a better line than the one you wrote. This is a very well-timed. I didn't know this was his question.
Yeah, no. I love it. I mean, sometimes it has annoyed me when someone just doesn't want to say the line.
Yeah.
And that's happened, but most of the time it's like if an actor is more comfortable saying it this way or come up with something even funnier. I mean, that's part of why I was so excited to get Ben Schwartz on board, because I was like, this guy's hilarious. Like he's going to help us make it funny. I mean, that's really why this whole movie works. Not just us, but like everyone across the board. was just dedicated to making the movie as good as possible. And it wasn't like an ego contest or like, it's got to be my way. No one was like that. Jeff was very open to everyone's ideas and just like best idea wins across the board. And I love it when an actor comes up with a great line because it's like the people at home don't know that I didn't write it. I'm like, I'm happy to take credit for a great line someone else came up with. Yeah, that was all me, baby.
Sure. So let's we've got another video question here from Charles. I'll repeat for you, Pat. So Charles, thank you so much for joining us. How's it going for you today?
It's going. I haven't slept yet. That's been
sure.
But my question was, I wasn't a huge Sonic fan growing up, but the only person I knew was Dr. Robotnik. So I wanted to know if you felt like pigeonholed into picking Dr. Robotnik for this movie, or if you felt like, did you explore other villains, or were you excited like, yeah, Dr. Robotnik, let's go?
Did you catch that, Pat?
I just got the end. The question is if we had considered other villains.
Yeah. He actually said he wasn't as familiar with Sonic initially, but he knew about Dr. Robotnik. So did it feel like, well, that's like the iconic villain you have to start with, or was there other iterations? And thank you so much for your question. To get some sleep, Charles.
I will try.
We always were planning on Dr. Robotnik. Like, he's so the iconic villain for Sonic. It would be really weird to do anyone else first. But there were other versions where there was a second villain, but it's always tough to do a 2-villain movie. I know some concept art has leaked out there of like this a lizard warrior who was going to be our secondary villain and had some great stuff, but then ultimately we sort of simplified it down and we're like, well, let's just focus on Robotnik and do Robotnik the best we can do. And we'll get to some of this other sort of talking animal stuff and other planets, hopefully in the second one. But ultimately, because this is like a movie that skews a little younger and the studio wanted to keep it short, they didn't want this to turn into a Marvel movie that's 2.5 hours long. They were like, 90 to 100 minutes is the sweet spot. And we were like, okay, yeah, one villain ultimately is the best way to go. Well, and if there's going to be one villain, it's got to be Dr. Robotnik.
Right. I think most people would agree on that. It's funny though. I will mention on Fandom Sonic Wiki, Shadow is a very popular character. Sometimes he's even more popular than Sonic in a given month. So just saying,
Yeah, noted.
There's some possibilities out there. We've got our next text question, and that's from Demi. Bring up Demi's question here. Demi asks, "Hey there, I'm an admin on the Sonic Wiki. A lot of the fans are anticipating the movie. Did you have any nerves writing the script in order to make a product that impresses fans?" I guess that's always a question, right? When you're adapting something that is so popular, it's been around for decades in this case. How much do you think, okay, and we talked about even like the first trailer, how much are we, are delivering what the fans want? Did you think about that during the process?
Yeah, of course we did. I mean, when we first started on this, like we were Sonic fans, but we weren't really that engaged with the Sonic fandom until we started. And then I kind of went on the message boards and lurked and, saw what everyone was thinking and feeling as best I could. And the Sonic fandom is extremely engaged and sometimes extremely excitable. So yeah, I was a little bit scared of them. I was like, oh no, like people love Sonic so much. We wanted to make a product that would like play well with people who weren't familiar with Sonic, but also one that the fans would hopefully embrace, even though the fans at times can be a little cranky, as I think you're aware.
Right.
So we knew they were going to be a kind of a tough audience to please. So we did our best to like stay true to the spirit of Sonic and hopefully come up with something that everyone would enjoy, even if we weren't, sticking to every detail, sticking exactly to the canon as represented in the wiki,
What about, one character we haven't really talked a lot about is Tom. And of course, it's like this interplay, this sort of buddy movie between the two of them. So, what was it like kind of coming up with that character and kind of figuring out what is the right foil or, ultimately, a best friend for Sonic?
Yeah, it's funny that we talked about a lot at the beginning is because it was always like, by nature of being a hybrid movie, it was going to have to be about Sonic having some kind of human friend. And the question is, what's that human friend? At one point, it was going to be like an Alison Brie type character. At one point, it was going to be like some teens, like a group of like technologically gifted teens. And we had a whole outline for that version too. But then it was sort of like, that was one where Tim Miller was kind of like looking at it and he was like, what do we need these teens for? Like,
Right.
does Sonic need to befriend a kid? Isn't Sonic the kid? And we were like,
Right.
oh, shoot, he's right. Sonic is the kid. But then we also talked about like maybe Sonic teams up with like a secret agent, like another like action type guy. But then that felt a little ridiculous. So we were like, well, maybe we meet in the middle. Maybe it's like a small town cop, like kind of a sleepy cop. He's not a real action guy, but when it hits the fan, he can participate in the action and get like we ended up with James Marsden, who's so great as sort of this shucks, like Henry Fonda type character. But then you also believe it when he's throwing punches. Like when it came time to fight, he wasn't like some complete incompetent man-child. It's like he's like a manly man, and he could hang. And somehow, just the small town cop thing seems to catch on us, and like the idea of just doing the speed trap is like how they met in the first place, and the idea that Sonic like looks up to someone who he views as a hero, even though he's not really, because he's just a small town cop and he never deals with anything. This is like the sleepiest, most friendly town in the entire universe. But also we didn't want to, the idea that he's just there to help people within the movie of the universe of this movie, like that's his role as a cop. And then like the actual like big government is like Robotnik, and like the military is a little more scary. So we didn't want to have like Sonic should be a little anti-establishment too, I think.
Right. He's not the man. He's not the man. Sonic's not the man.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to throw you a little curveball here, hopefully a pleasant surprise, Pat, which is, Fandom Entertainment. We are the home of Screen Junkies, and that's the home of Honest Trailers. And there might be an Honest Trailer on the way that might be of interest to you. So we're going to show you a little tease of what's to come.
Right.
Not finished yet. We're going to throw you a little tease right now. And then we're going to have some more questions for you and one other special guest. So if we could play that HTTs, guys.
In a world where the only thing worse than a movie tie-in video game is a video game tie-in movie.
Oh, nah, I done seen everything.
Sega Studios will... Wait, Sega Studios? Slow your roll. A Sonic movie is one thing, but what's next? Echo the Dolphin? Streets of Rage? Actually, that sounds pretty rad. I'm in. Sega Studios will crack the game movie code by making it star a quick furry animal, making them do cop stuff, and okay, I'll say it, making a faster, bluer version of Detective Pikachu. Hey, it wouldn't be a Sega project if they weren't riffing on something Nintendo did first. Sonic the Hedgehog. Meet Ah! What is that? No, gross, bad. I want that thing gone. You hear me? Gone! Meet Sonic the Hedgehog, a not at all horrifying creature. He'll star in a movie so nice they made it twice. Because for the first time in internet history, an angry mob of nerds actually made something better. No matter how much pain and sweat it took for the animators to hit the release date. Man, that must have cost a fortune. I wonder where they found the money.
Apartments for rent I found on Zillow.
In the Olive Garden.
Because when you're there,
Your family.
Can you believe Amazon is going to deliver packages with these things?
Make his a mellow yellow, please.
Call Optical Illusions. Tell them I need new frames.
Have you tried their never-ending pasta bowl? It never ends.
Wow, all these product placements and they didn't do the one that it would actually fit.
This is how you Sonic.
Oh, there you have it. Not the fun.
Yeah. I would go see a Streets of Rage movie too.
There you go. And people were asking about that a connected universe. So we're gonna actually bring on someone here for you to speak to. Hopefully we can get that past that delay. So here is one of the writers and producers of Honest Trailers, Spencer Gilbert. Spencer, thanks so much for being here. And Pat, I hope you can hear Spencer.
I can see him now. Yeah, there he is.
Okay, excellent. So I'm going to hand it over to Spencer for in a moment here. But I wanted to say, Pat, this is your chance. Usually these things come out and that's it, but this isn't quite finished yet. Next week it debuts. So here's your chance to have a little pre-input with one of the writers producers of Honest Trailers on your film. Hey, Spencer.
Hey, how's it going? Pat, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Look, this is like Eric said, you can take us to task. Like if something like rubbed you the wrong way in that intro, like no, the product placement was all necessary. Like now's your time, or beats.
A lot of that was not product placement. The Olive Garden thing, Olive Garden didn't pay us for that. It was just a joke. I don't know. Yeah. It was just a little thing, and then it seemed to keep growing on set when I wasn't there. They kept throwing in more Olive Garden references. I don't know. The joke was originally just that the general gives them a crappy gift card at the end, and then it became a whole thing. It like worked its way back into earlier in the movie.
Well, I hope you got paid by the Olive Garden or something.
No, I didn't. They should send me at least that $50 gift card. I could go for some endless pasta right now.
Wow.
I'm not. Yeah, Zillow. That was definitely product placement. That like showed up at the last second. The first time I saw that was at the premiere. The earlier cuts was just like I was looking at apartments online.
Oh, so they spare you from having to write that in. They're like, you just find it at the premiere. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
That's well. So, what would you make fun of the movie for if you had to?
I don't know. I mean, there's certainly some plot holes. Like he knocks out all electricity, but the cell phones are still working. I'm not sure how that worked. I was envisioning it as being like on the landlines, which work on their own system. You know, I remember when we were kids, the power used to go out, but the phones would still work even when the power wasn't. I don't know, just the power of friendship, giving him like a super energy boost at the end. I think we made that work, but it is definitely a little ridiculous, and I can see people making fun of it.
Always.
But you said in the honest trailer right now that Sonic is doing cop stuff, but he's really not. He's on the run from the law the whole time. Tom's a cop at the beginning, but he becomes a fugitive. This is a story of fugitives, or it's like, you know, a cop and a criminal teaming up, like 48 hours, really.
That's a fair point. It is very 48 hours.
They even go to a bar. There's even like a big bar scene. Yeah.
They go to like the most family-friendly biker bar that's like one part Aryan Nation, one part Dave and Buster's.
Yeah, no, it's a little inconsistent from the inside of the outside of the biker bar. That was a scene we knew we wanted very early on, though, because it was kind of like, what are we going to do with this movie? So it's not just him fighting robots over and over again. And we were just like, wait, they should get in a bar brawl. That'll be fun. And like that made the execs laugh. I was like, yeah, it's in. And when at one point they were trying to make us cut it because they were like, we really don't need this for the plot. And I'm like, doesn't matter for the plot. We need it for the movie, for the feeling. We got to go to a bar and get in a big brawl. The biggest brawl of all movie brawls of all time. Which I don't know if it was the biggest, but it was pretty big. I think we delivered on it.
That was a good scene. I'm just skipping ahead in my script. I wanted to give you a chance to respond to some stuff. Was there ever any pause or hesitancy of like you have this character who's the fastest thing on Earth, and then you make it like a road movie? Like, couldn't you get to San Francisco in 10 seconds?
Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, here's my answer to that, though. What's really going on is because he doesn't really want to leave Earth at all. He wants a friend. He's on a quest to get his rings, but like he doesn't want to find him. He's procrastinating. He's making excuses so that Tom will have to go with him because that's what he really wants to do. Is he wants to go on the road trip. You know, he's not 100% focused on his goal.
And again, that's why Tails couldn't be in this movie.
But also, he's like, since he has this godlike super speed, was it hard to think of things for James Marsden to do during an action sequence?
I don't know. Not really. It's like Sonic's very fast, but he's not invulnerable. You know, he takes some hits, and there were some things like we had some more stuff with like the townspeople helping in the fight at the end. They got scaled back because it was just a little too absurd, and it did always raise the question of like, yeah, why isn't Sonic just doing this? Couldn't Sonic just do that? Couldn't you do that? But I don't know. You work around those things. I feel like we made more sense than like. On the Flash TV show and stuff, it's like the Flash, really, he could take out any villain in like a millisecond. They're like, oh, Flash, I got this, you know, special ray gun. And Flash always runs up and stops like 20 feet from them and is like, let's banter a little. I'm going to wait for you to pull your weapon and use it, even though Flash could just grab it right out of their hand before they could blink. But they've been getting that going for like 7 seasons or something, and no one seems bothered by that. The old stop and banter.
Well, Spencer, thank you so much. And you can look for that on his trailer this coming Tuesday. Thanks, Spencer.
Thank you, guys.
I'm looking forward to it. That should be funny.
It's funny you mentioning the Olive Garden thing and it just being like a funny thing you threw in the script. Birds of Prey opened a week apart from your movie and also had an Olive Garden mention. So I felt like there was something going on. Yes, they also. I was watching it recently, and I said, "Hey, people kept mentioning Sonic's Olive Garden mentions, but Birds of Prey has one too." She has some line at the beginning, which is talking about breaking up with Joker about the Olive Garden. So I just think there was something in the zeitgeist,
Yeah.
The Olive Garden connected universe. That's what's happening.
Yeah. That's why I don't even remember that. I saw Birds of Prey, but I don't like somehow that Olive Garden didn't.
It was more
didn't penetrate my brain.
Were bringing it up because of Sonic that I was like hyper. Hey, this movie mentioned it too. We're gonna go to a video question now from Foster. So let's bring up Foster. Hey, Foster, thanks so much for joining us. Oh, Foster. There's Foster. I was like, is it hiding?
Sorry about that.
No worries.
I got two questions. But the first one is that if you make a second movie, are you gonna add Supersonic in?
So did you hear that question, Pat?
The question is Supersonic going to make an appearance?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, you'd have to get a hold of a lot of Chaos Emeralds to make that happen.
Yeah.
So so I can't really say, but we are all aware of Supersonic.
Oh, are you showing a picture you made of Sonic? Ah, very nice, Foster. Yeah, thank you. You said you had one more question, Foster?
Yeah. Is the Mushroom Land related to the Sonic Free Knuckles Mushroom Land?
Mushroom Hill Zone? Yeah. I would say that the Mushroom World is Mushroom Hill Zone, I think. We all kind of had the idea of, incorporating some of the different zones into the movies wherever we could. And then it's also like, Sonic doesn't want to go to the Mushroom Land because mushrooms also sort of represent Mario, Sonic's greatest rival.
Thank you so much, Foster.
I like the.
Oh, sorry, we missed this. Thank you, Foster. It's funny, the mushroom thing, I was also thinking, I just personally hate mushrooms, so I supported that as a decision of the place that Sonic did not want to go. We're going to bring up another video question from Corey. So, Corey, let's bring you up. Thank you so much for joining us, Corey. How's it going?
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hey there. Yep. How's it going for you?
A few of my friends and Crush 40 themselves even noticed their little Easter egg in the movie where they were in Eggman's playlist. And I was just wondering if behind the scenes, if there's any talk of Crush 40, the band who did like the vocal songs for Sonic, any chance of them getting in the sequel?
Did you hear that, Pat?
Only the very, very end.
That there was a little reference to Crush 40 on the playlist of Robotnik, and he was wondering if you could maybe get could they be in the sequel, their music be in the sequel?
I'm not sure. That one's really not up to me. I don't really have anything to do with the music, but I think that would be cool. I would love to get like a little nod of a little Crush 40 in there somewhere. So I'd say it's possible, but I don't know.
Do you happen to know whose idea it was to put that little Easter egg in?
Oh, I mean, I think it was Jeff's because it was like he had the idea of Robotnik like having his playlists. That was one where it was like that was like not in the script, but Jeff kind of called us and was like, "What would be some ideas for Robotnik's playlist?" So we started just brainstormed and came up with some stuff. And I don't know if we suggested Crush 40. That's possible, but or it's just someone else did. I mean, these movies are so big and there are so many people that like as the scenes go through their processes too, it's like people keep having ideas, and some of those Easter eggs came from like special effects people or designers or the editor, everybody just kind of being like seeing opportunities for like, oh, we could put this here and that there. And there's like more Easter eggs even that people haven't even found yet.
Thank you so much, Corey, for your question. By the way, I want to thank you for getting in the Easter egg of Sonic liking chili dogs, because we have a shipping wiki where Sonic and a chili dog is like the most popular thing. People love Sonic and chili dogs together.
We used to have an even bigger chili dog scene but then that sort of just kind of went away as we were cutting the script down, where it was like when Sonic's like really sad when he and Tom first get together, and Tom kind of tells him this whole tale. He comes up with chili dogs. Sonic doesn't know what they are, and he's like, "Oh, on our planet, chili dog can cure anything, even a broken heart or something like that." Not quite that dumb. And Sonic's like, "I don't even want it." And then once he tastes it, he's like, "Bah!" and eats it, and eats the other one right out of Tom's hand before Tom can blink.
Well, the chili dog can get an expanded role in the sequel.
Yeah, for sure.
We have a text question from Tito. So let's bring up Tito's question to us. What would you say are the top 5 things that define Sonic's character? How would you like to see them develop in sequels? I won't hold you to 5. What are there things that you're like, this is like you have to include, as we were talking about, as you're incorporating some new ideas with some pre-established ones?
Yeah, I mean, his like sort of wisecracking nature, like he's got to wisecrack. He's got to have that smirk. He's got to look out for the little guy, little animals, help the helpless, stick up for his friends. I think a lot of like the whole series as a whole, because all his friends are different kinds of animals and stuff. I feel like there's kind of a general theme of sort of found family, that his best friend's Tails, and then when he meets Knuckles, they're enemies, but then they become friends. And I mean, he's converted so many enemies into friends. I mean, Shadow and whatnot. That there's like sort of a general theme about that. So we thought the idea of him sort of becoming friends with Tom and ultimately kind of becoming like a family was like in keeping with the general themes of the series of Sonic finding family. And then just his courage. It's like, he's got the superpower of super speed, but I think his true superpower, it's just that heart and that courage to keep going no matter what.
Yeah.
I don't know. That makes sense to you?
I think it makes sense.
Am I missing anything? Is there an essential quality?
Sonic's inspiring, dang it.
Yeah.
We have one last video question here from Oscar. So Oscar, let's bring you up. Oscar, thanks so much for joining us. Hey, Oscar, how's it going for you? Can you hear me? Oh, he's connecting. Hey, Oscar, how's it going?
Hey, I can hear you. Hey, Pat Casey, nice to meet you here. I'm a huge Sonic fan here. I have Asperger syndrome.
Mm-hmm. So what's your question, Oscar?
What did you inspire to make a Sonic movie? Because thank you for not disappointing the fans, including me.
Thank you so much for your question, Oscar. Did you hear that? Did you hear that, Pat?
What inspired us to write the Sonic movie?
Andy wanted to thank you for not disappointing the fans. And I guess, we didn't talk about what were your sort of initial we talked about like kind of figuring out the story, but what were your first meetings like about the project?
We actually sort of just talked our way into this job. We had, what's called a general meeting with Toby Asher, the producer, who works for Neil Moritz, and where you kind of just go in and chit chat about stuff and see if you hit it off. And he had a picture of Sonic on the wall, and we were like, what's going on? Sonic movie? Is there a Sonic movie? We could write a Sonic movie. Because we were both big Sonic fans when we were kids. And, it was immediately obvious to me that it was a great idea to make a Sonic movie. Even though I remember when I told some of my friends I was trying to get it, I was like, oh, we're going to try and get the job of writing the Sonic movie. And one of my buddies was like, why? I was like, oh, you're no fun. It's because it'll be great. But basically, like, they already had writers at that point, but we were also knew, these things are a process, and they'd probably been trying to do it for a while. So we were like, listen, when you get stuck, call us. We want to do it. And a few months later, Toby did call us and was like, all right, yeah, we're starting over. Do you guys have some ideas? And we were like, yes. And we saw it as a great opportunity because it's like, we love these kind of, big fun movies that the whole family can watch together. Back to the Future is probably my favorite movie of all time, or in the top 10 at least. And we wanted to make a movie like that because I feel like, Goldman the Insatiable was like an adult cartoon, but it was also like for kids to enjoy, just slightly older kids, or kids to enjoy when their parents didn't know they were watching it. And I think we saw it as a great opportunity to like just make a big all audiences movie that could be funny and fun and, make the audience feel something. And I mean, it's obviously by far the biggest movie we'd ever really had a crack at. And we wanted to show we could do it and show we belonged as, Hollywood screenwriters, that we weren't just little cartoon guys or National Lampoon dumb comedy guys, which was, all right as a job, but it was never that super satisfying, and none of those movies ever turned out well. So I wish I could erase them from my filmography now, but it is what it is.
Well, I'm glad we ended on Oscar saying thank you for not disappointing the fans, because that's what you want to hear, you know?
I very much enjoy hearing that, because I was worried. I knew that, I mean, Sonic's got such great fans and such engaged fans, and I really wanted to give them something that they would enjoy and not something where they would just be mad at us. And I know, like, when the movie was announced, and even, you know, through that first trailer, I saw a fair amount of negativity out there of like, this movie's going to be bad. I wish they weren't making it. I was like, no, I want you to watch it and enjoy it. Just stick with us, give it a chance. And I'm glad that I think, I'm sure there are some people who didn't like it, but a lot of people did like it. And that makes me very happy, because that's what this is all about, is, you know, bringing some fun to people and showing them a good time at the movies.
Well, yeah, definitely mission accomplished on that front. So, Pat, I wanted to thank you so much for being here for our inaugural Hey Fandom. This has been super fun.
Thank you for having me. This was a good time. I hope I did all right.
You did. No, you did great. Thanks for dealing with some technical snafus. We're working out the kinks. I wanted to ask you, where can people find you on social media?
I'm on Twitter. I'm Pat_KC, like letter K, letter C. It's at Pat_KC. And then I'm on Instagram as Pat Casey Superstar. Which is maybe a bad handle to choose. It's a little obnoxious. And really, I should have both handles should be the same. I may set these up when I was not a public figure.
No, yeah, just embrace it. Embrace it. Well, I'll thank you again, Pat. Take care, and thanks so much for joining us today.
All right. Thank you.
So, guys, I want to once again thank Pat. It was super fun to talk to him. We also wanted to once more mention our charity partner, Direct Relief, and we really want to encourage you to donate to them. You can do that at fandom.link/donate to a really great cause if you're able to. And if you sneak in right now while we're wrapping up this show, you'll be mentioned on the upcoming episode of SJU. So I also want to just say that Fandom cares about you, appreciates you all so much for joining us for their first episode of Hey Fandom. We'll be doing some more of these. Look for those soon, and take care. Thanks, guys, very much.